I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this. Oh, hey! Hey, what's up, baby? Yeah! Big E. Big E on Big E TV. Big E TV. And wow. We have a great all-time world's greatest rock and roll council meeting for you tonight. We've got my man Ken coming on the show, rock goddess herself, Michelle Drake from T.O. What's up, big man? Good to see you. I like this guy. Look at how big this guy is. He's strong. You're strong, having effort.
Yeah, well, not as strong as you, but you're a big man too, man.
Yeah, I'm in Paris. You see, that's what I love.
Okay, Michelle, I'm bringing you on camera, girl.
The songs from Shelley Giggy, Dee Pretty, and Billy Bankston. Thanks so much, you guys.
Hey, there you are. How are you?
I'm great. Where are you?
Coming to you live from the Garden Bay restaurant.
You live on your boat, I understand. That sounds like a pretty awesome lifestyle. Free and easy. You can go anywhere you wanted. You can just pick up and... How cool a feeling is that?
Yeah, it's just total freedom, you know.
As you can see, we're in a spectacular part of nature. Mad Park Bistro in lovely Madeira Park, British Columbia. Center of the universe, beautiful. Pender Harbor. Lisa over at the Mad Park Bistro. If you're ever in Madeira Park, check that out. They have fantastic croissants. What do you got to say to the millions of Facebook viewers out there? Sunshine Coast is brimming with fantastic music here.
We're gonna be here on June 1st until the 3rd.
Be here, be queer. You know we love the LGBT community out there. Although shake your booty. Shake, shake, shake. Do-do-do-do-do. Shake, shake, shake. Woo! Casey and the Sunshine Band. Those guys had it going on in the 70s.
Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake.
Would you agree that music matters?
Oh my gosh, music is like it's part of your soul, right?
The Pender Harbor Blues Festival, June 1st to the 3rd. They haven't announced the venues yet. Blues bands like the Blue Line Trio, Pop Greg and the Chillin' Dillons, Tim Hurst and Brick House. Remember Brick House from the old Yale days? No, but people seem genuinely happy up here. I notice that.
It's God's country, you know. It's beautiful.
The all-time world's greatest music. And we do not count country music in the all-time world. It's the only music that we only count real music in the all-time world's greatest rock and roll country.
Right.
And I must say again, you are a fantastic board member. It's pretty indisputable. I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, as our producer MJ over here said, you know, I mean, Stairway to Heaven. It's you can't argue. That's the best song of all time. I know it gets boring after a while, year in, year out. I think Dark Side of the Moon could probably go down as the greatest album of all time in musical history. Pretty hard to argue with Dark Side of the Moon. You tell me Beyonce has a better song than Stairway to Heaven? I don't think so. The Who, Rolling Stones.
This is excitement, and hit it. My generation.
Pete Townsend, The Who, one of the great concerts I ever saw was The Who.
When we were growing up, The Who obviously had a million farewell tours.
Oh my goodness, was that a wild affair.
And I don't even he knew about how big the explosion was going to be.
The Who deserved their own category, Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey, because when they would finish a concert, they were so wild, they would smash their instruments, the Gibson guitars, and they'd stick their feet through the drums. And producer of the show, it was a nightmare to try to organize getting new, gear every show. The Beatles, those are the big four. I mean, I put Black Sabbath in there. Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward. You know, the great bands, I can remember all the band members' names.
I saw Ozzy and I saw Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio. I never saw Black Sabbath with Ozzy, but I certainly did see not only Ozzy Osbourne, but I saw Randy Rhoads before his tragic death. Stones have some of the most greatest party music. Is you can dance to it, you can party to it, you can do it all, have sex with it. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. Below that, it's really about more of a genre thing. Like in the 70s and 80s, you had April Wine and Heart. You had Kiss.
Okay, you wanted the best, you got the best. Big E, Ski, and Dynamite, double black diamond.
Elton John. Elton John was huge.
Oh, and Alice Cooper.
Alice
The
Cooper. Peter Frampton, you know, Frampton Comes Alive, Nazareth. Queen, you can't forget Queen in that. Queen is definitely one of the greatest.
The real reason I loved Alice Cooper was because at that time everyone was into like Sean Cassidy and they loved this lovey songs. Alice Cooper was really one of those.
Neil Young, you gotta put Neil Young and Pearl Jam up there. They're almost like a super group when they get together. There's only two great genres of rock and roll in the 60s, 70s, like that genre, and in the early 90s with the Seattle grunge scene.
Yeah,
you know, with those bands, they killed it. You know, like Smashing Pumpkins, Screaming Trees. You know, actually, the Red Hot Chili Peppers they came out of
the
LA.
Cranberries came out at that time too.
And I've seen Pearl Jam numerous times. Most recently over here at the Pemberton Music Festival.
Woo! Big E here, coming to you from the Pemberton Music Festival.
Pearl Jam is like U2. They're one of those like they've done something bigger than themselves. You know, they've sustained a long time. Coldplay's actually been one of those ones too. In the 80s, Dire Straits killed it.
And yo-yos, that's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV.
U2's been a multi-generational band. It's kind of like reached, you know, so many groups. Eagles in the 80s. What do the Eagles sing? You know, I got that peaceful, easy feeling. Oh, I love you, brother. Look at this guy.
All right, we're doing good, man. We could duet, but I'm not sure many people would listen, you know. But we could try.
I just came back from the Eagles concert, and man, the 70s and 80s, the Eagles ruled. Saw Pink Floyd at the BC Place before with Twister and Dano. Front row seats. A little bit of partying involved with that concert, no doubt. What about Marilyn Manson? Would you put Marilyn Manson and Alice Cooper in the same category?
No. I find that Marilyn Manson to me is only a shred of what Alice Cooper is. Alice Cooper has so much richness in his.
Well, he's the original. The 90s, it's about Pearl Jam, it's about the Nirvanas and the Foo Fighters of the world, the Smashing Pumpkins, Screaming Trees, all of those, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, the Seattle sound scene in the 90s. That's right, Billy. Yeah, Whitesnake was huge in the 90s. Billy also had up there Jack Johnson. I couldn't agree with you more, Billy. I like Jack Johnson. To me, he's a little bit like U2. You know, he's a crossover band. You know, he appeals to different genres, different generations. I think the Red Hot Chili Peppers, there's always a few bands that kind of cross over like that. U2 is one of those rare bands where I believe that Foo Fighters is kind of like their... You know, they've crossed generations. You know, they have an old following, new following. If you want to put it like that too, you could also say Iron Maiden. I remember MJ and I went to Iron Maiden years ago. And wow, that was a great show, and I couldn't believe how many young people were there, even though I followed Iron Maiden in the 80s. In Nelson, we could only listen to 5 bands growing up. AC/DC. Saw AC/DC with Kevin Hansen and Bob Hilchey, some basketball guys.
Hey, party. What do you do for money? Yeah.
Doug Schweers, that song, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. And they had a 21-gun salute, and they had these cannons. and then these cannons were pointed upwards, and then they were going to blow out these fireworks. Well, one of the cannons got accidentally pointed down at the audience, and they had to freak out at the last second. They were finally getting it pulled up before the stuff went off. It was a close call.
One of history's best-selling records.
Of course, the rock and roll is the Aerosmiths of the world, and Ted Nugent, the Scorpions, and Def Leppard. Those were the big five. One of the all-time world's greatest rock and roll band members. Okay, Michael, lay them on me. Some of your greatest bands of all time. I'm going personal influences. Velvet Underground. Oh my. I mean, these are the true rock bands. I know that they're very influential in the musical scene.
They don't care anymore about all the Jim-Jims in this town and all the politicians making crazy sounds and everybody putting everybody else down.
Greatest vocalist, Janis Joplin. Yes.
But I'm gonna tell you, don't ask that a woman can return. Oh, you keep hold on and sing it.
Yeah, Janis Joplin had a very distinctive. I personally like Stevie Nicks' voice a little bit more than Janis Joplin, although when I think of some of the greats, what I love about Janis Joplin and Joni Mitchell, some of the originals right here.
Oh, you got it. If it makes you feel good right now.
Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive, I love that. Shelley had a couple of bands. She had Guns N' Roses. Bon Jovi were brought up a few times here locally with Steve, one of the local guys here, and Living on a Prayer. Who could forget that classic song? Kim Mitchell, Shelley brought up. When you think of Kim Mitchell, you think of Max Webster. I think of Rush. I think of that song Battle Scar. When I think of the greatest songs of all time, to me, the best songs are the ones that conjure up images. I think of the ones that conjure up the strongest images. The imagery. The ones that, like, when you hear them, it's like you go off in this fantasy land in your mind or something, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
Crazy Mary, Pearl Jam. Most people don't know that song, but look it up. So what are the songs for you? I Am the Walrus, The Beatles. Do you have any songs like that? Dee Pretty, she likes the Bob. She likes Bob Dylan. She likes Bob Seger.
Pretty Woman conjures up some, that's a great song.
Do you know, like, different songs remind you of different people?
Yep.
And the imagery is very strong there.
Kirk Randa, he introduced me to the Tragically Hip. I'll never forget, way back in the day, New Orleans is Sinking. We were driving, we had a cassette player in the car. You put the cassette tape in.
Octopus's Garden of Beatles.
Oh yeah,
you're way down there, right?
By Zeppelin.
Going to California. Yes. In fact, I think Art does an incredible version of that. Wilson sisters, Ann Wilson and Nancy Wilson.
You got ELO coming out with Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah, you're a big ELO fan.
I'm a big Jeff Lynne fan.
I've never even knew Sublime stayed
Sublime. I love them. And then we got Billy Bankston. In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins. I love that. Cat Stevens, Year of the Cat. Leader of Men, Nickelback. You wanted the best. And you got the best. The hottest band in the world. The hottest band in the world. Kiss. Yes, Kiss. Who can forget Detroit Rock City and Kiss Alive 2, Shout It Out Loud. Sympathy for the Devil, The Stones. Okay, Flicker Stick. Okay, Billy, thanks, man. So ELO, what are your top ELO songs?
He's got so many good ones. Living Thing.
Gold, Chet Faker, and Wicked Game. Chris Isaac.
Telephone Line was great.
What's that really rock and roll song like? They just kill it with that beginning, like... It's like some of the newer songs, like Counting Stars.
I'm not sure. Can you sing it?
It will be counting stars. Yeah, it's hard to sing. James Brown. I feel good. Take it up, Keith. I feel good. I feel good. You know that I feel James Brown, one of the original soul men, I think back in the day. I'm a soul man. Da, 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 da. That was Blues Brothers. I think it's Turn to Stone. Yeah.
Turn to stone. When I'm coming home.
George Harrison from the Beatles, certainly know him. Who were those guitarists for those greatest bands of all time? Oh, Keith Richards' favorite guitarist. Is that right, eh? Rolling Stone. Keith maybe for a pure songwriting and riffs. Okay, yes, songwriting, Rolling Stones, you gotta love them. Some of the great guitarists, you gotta look at some of the Eagles. Hotel California, just saw the Eagles, had the most amazing seats for Eagles. Hotel California. Don Felder, Joe Walsh. The original rock guitarist would be Robert Johnson, preaching the blues back in the 30s, an Afro-American fella. Robert Leroy Johnson, great. Jimmy Page points to Robert Johnson as one of the inspirations.
Did go back to England. I went back to Mark Knopfler.
Mark Knopfler.
Okay, you know, the only guy who does the guitar with the hammer claw technique.
Okay, tell us about that. Tony Iommi is one of my great guitarists.
Had to make his fingers do something that they don't really want to do to make it work.
Send the Swing, one of the great songs.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I wanted to share with you was that we put Eric Clapton as one of the greatest guitarists of all time, having one of the great guitar riffs of all time. With Layla, tied with Tom Petty of Running Down a Dream, best guitar riffs to open up a song. I guess Scorpions, you could put Scorpions up there with the Zoo as well. B.B. King, I met B.B. King at during Expo 86, the biggest hands of any entertainer I've ever met before. Also met his guitar Lucille, she's a lovely lady. Chuck Berry, these are some of the originals of rock and roll. I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan in Montreal back at the Police. This is in the Big O Stadium, where it's the Big O. Now I know why you get the Big O headache, the reverberation, and they actually had to stop concerts there because big chunks of concrete would be coming down from the Olympic Stadium. Who do you think the greatest drummers of all time are? When it came to the greatest drummers, you know, there's really only three. Who did you say?
Zeppelin.
John Bonham.
Bonham.
Yeah. We have pretty much, it's a universal agreement that John Bonham's a great drummer.
He was pretty good.
So you can't argue with that. Neil Peart. Number 2 is Neil Peart from Rush.
Oh, nice.
And Keith Moon are kind of in a category by themselves.
Over here, the guy plays the sloppy drums. Follow the yellow brick road. What's your name?
Keith.
Keith?
My friends call me Keith. You can call me John.
And number 3, you got to say Keith Moon, The Who.
Yeah.
Yes, you said The Who. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
And this is a... you got sloppy stage hands around there. Okay, that's enough! Jerry Mercer, another great Canadian, April Wine drummer. Ginger Baker, wow, Michael. Okay, Ginger Baker, drummer. He's a drummer for Cream. Yes, great drumming is often under the radar. Eric Carr is the Kiss drummer. Okay, thank you, Billy. Greg said that, well, what about Phil Collins? Out of all the concerts I've been to, he had one of the cleanest, crispest sounding concerts I've ever been to. I could also put in that name in terms of best overall drummers, Mick Fleetwood. If you look at Fleetwood Mac, oh my goodness. Fleetwood Mac Rumors, one of the great records of all time. Lo and behold, in the 90s, I went and did personal security for Stevie Nicks. I worked backstage at a concert with her, and unfortunately she wasn't quite as, didn't look quite the same with her makeup off. Beauty behind her voice. Stevie Nicks, she's got to be one of the great, beautiful.
Okay, Michelle, thank you so much, sweetie, for coming on. You know, I always love talking to you. You are adorable.
The All-Time World's Rock and Roll Council. Check out my Facebook page. Join me there. Keep those comments coming, folks, on the All-Time World's Greatest Rock and Roll. We're going to get to the bottom of who is the greatest of all time. We got to remember that great song by The Deuce is Loose, Jerry Doucette. Mama, let that boy play some rock and roll. Daddy's much too crazy. He can do it when he's old. When I was growing up, one of my favorite bands in my mind of all time, right up with the big weights, Dire Straits, Betty. Dire Straits. I love Dire Straits. And Tunnel of Love.
Beautiful.
Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, fantastic.
I love Dire Straits.
So you didn't tell me that, so that was your little secret.
Yeah, exactly. I was
talking about Dire Straits, and I
was holding him back. I wanted to give him like, yeah, I love Dire Straits. But you wanted the best and you got the best.